Hello and welcome in. It is Halloween week and we are tuning in for our collective tarot and oracle messages for the week ahead, as well as a little dip into the astrological weather and what is moving in. So we have lights out here. I have darkened the altar space and brought in some of our festive decor for celebrating this week for Halloween, Samhain, Dia de los Muertos, wherever you are and what you celebrate, you can tune into the energy of this season of transformation, of shadow. And as we've been tuning into all month, which cannot believe it's the last week of October, behind the mask, beyond the veil. So really moving into this energy of what's being revealed when we peel back the layers, when we look behind the mask, when we move that veil to the side with this thinning that's coming through, what is being revealed. So we're going to tune into, it was very hard to choose, but I'm sticking with our Trick or Treat Tarot for our 5-card spread for this week. And we're going to do, of course, the Halloween Oracle and the Samhain from the Seasons of the Witch. I'm also going to be using a couple of the other Halloween decks this week for some extra fun. As much as I can get in, it is a very busy week here with all of the celebrational things. There's a lot of stuff at the kids' school with trunk or treat and pumpkin math and the Halloween parade and all the things. So I will certainly be coming on here on the Empowerment Sharecast to bring in some additional messages this week when I'm able. So we're going to tune in now. I'm going to get started. Oh, let's pull our Halloween Oracle first. Hopefully the blinking lights are not too distracting for you. These were fun, so I wanted to highlight the color and energies that are coming forward from all of the altar elements. When I come in to do our messages, I'll put the lights on. So let's get our Halloween Oracle card to set the tone for this week ahead. I am coming in here on Sunday, early evening, to tune in for this next week from a collective perspective. So if you're here on the Empowerment Sharecast, you know what we do. These are collective messages, so you're always invited to take what resonates, leave the rest. That's how it works with a collective reading. There's always someone there to pick it up. But if you would like a personal card pull just for you, let me know. You can quick reply to this message here on the Sharecast, or if you're seeing this in one of my social media spaces, get in touch and I will be in to pull a card for you this week to hone in a little more on what's coming in for you. Okay. Ooh, werewolf, exploring wildness. All right. Fitting right in here. And now I see that I'm getting an arrival here at the house that's going to cause Mr. Cooper to get quite excited, and he is very rested right now. So I'm going to let him out before the excitement begins. Come on. There you go. All right. So he's going to transform from a quiet sleeping pup to a wild banshee in a moment. All right, like the werewolf. Okay, let's see our 5-card spread. He's literally about to start howling. The door's closed, but you may still hear him. He's also bringing in the spirit of the season. So we're shuffling up our Trick or Treat Tarot to see what's coming in first for Monday, which is setting the tone for this week ahead in terms of the energies we're tuning into. And we're really wrapping up October here for real, because we're going to end on Friday, October 31st, and unbelievably November on Saturday. So just a shout out to let you know the November empowerment packs are booking now. If you would like to get in, we are going to jump in with back-to-back month ahead reading, and then we have a full moon coming right in first week of November. So if you would like to join, please let me know. I will be providing the link. Would highly encourage, this is a wonderful time as we're wrapping up the year, taking inventory to get some greater insight and awareness into what has all been culminating for you here in 2025 and getting some clarity in preparation for 2026. So, all right, let's see what's coming in for Monday's energy. We've got the 5 of Swords. Okay, so we're just coming right in there with that energy. All righty, 5 of Swords. We will feel into that in the messages. Tuesday is representing our potential block or challenge. Tuesday. The Star, the card of wishes and hope. Challenged. All right. So we are going to see about that major arcana card coming in for Tuesday. I haven't looked at our astrological weather yet either, so we'll weigh in there as well with these cards. So Wednesday is bringing in our midweek blessing. See what comes in here for a midweek blessing. 8 of Cups. So there's a moving on energy coming in here with that 8 of Cups. So there's a blessing in the clarity that perhaps we now have in our path forward, and it is one that is moving forward and onwards. Okay, Thursday, how are we growing? How have we been growing throughout this month? And as we wrap it up, what to know about how we are growing. 2 of Swords. I think that's the ninja back again, but of course we'll find out when we tune into the Trick or Treat Tarot. 2 of Swords, choice point, crossroads coming in with the growth potential. And then finally Friday. Friday is wrapping up the week, wrapping up the month, and bringing in All Hallows Eve and coming into the celebration of the thinning of the veil, Samhain, Day of the Dead, and of course All Saints Day on the other side of that as we welcome in November. So let's see what comes up now for Friday. Page of Cups. Beautiful energy to end the month, to wrap it up, and to segue into November. Page of Cups. Beautiful. Okay. So we're going to talk about that. And one last card to punctuate our messages will be our Seasons of the Witch, Samhain. Seasons of the Witch, bringing in a Samhain message for us all collectively. The card of seduction coming in as number 35. Okay, we will feel into that one as we unveil the messages coming right up. Let's get into some astrological weather. And again, if you would like a personal card pull this week, just let me know and I will be in for that as well. All right, let's get into it. Astrological weather coming up. All right, we are going to begin with the astrological weather this week that is influencing our collective energies. We've just got 2 aspects I want to talk about. That is starting with October 29th this week, Mercury in Sagittarius. So Mercury, the planet of communication, moves out of deep and reflective Scorpio into Sagittarius, where the energies are a little lighter. Now, Sagittarius is all about the higher mind, philosophy, and the bigger picture. So with Mercury here, we can take all that deep thinking that we've been doing and find ways to apply it to the real world. So what has been fermenting in our minds can now be expressed in bigger ways. So some opportunity to expand upon all of that deep thinking just in time before Mercury goes retrograde quite soon, coming up in November. Now, the other one I wanted to talk about, October 31st, of course, is Halloween, and the Pleiades that we're highlighting here. So Halloween has its roots in the pagan festival of Samhain, which celebrates the midpoint between equinox and the solstice. So this is a time when the veil between worlds is believed to be thin, and we can access those higher realms with greater ease. Now, Pleiades, the constellation, which is also synonymous with death and rebirth, is also high in the sky at this time of year, which is also said to signify and amplify these Samhain energies. So it's going to be interesting to see what the message is in our Seasons of the Witch Samhain card of seduction, and the veils on those ladies are quite thin, as you will see when we look at the altar here in just a moment. First, let's take a look at our Halloween oracle card. All right, we begin our card messages for the week with the Halloween oracle bringing forward werewolf, exploring wildness. Little prose here that says, luminosity triggers it, a wild moon rises, pain and blood and fangs, fur and howling and wolfen guises. Now, after a painful and excruciating, bone-jarring struggle against the change, the man releases to the magic. Howling unrestrained under the full moon, now the half-man, half-wolf rises up snarling and goes looking for blood. Yes, we all know the power of the werewolf. After the end of the European witch trials, an intense interest in the werewolf developed in folklore tales and evolved to become the stuff of horror stories. Fairly consistently since then, the Wolfman, or lichen, has featured regularly in tales both oral and written. Of course, during the last 100 years, there have been many hugely popular movies, including American Werewolf in London, and themes in books such as the recent Twilight Saga series. The werewolf is a kind of shapeshifter, but one that has traditionally had little control over his wildness. In a way, an inner battle between civilization, quote unquote, and wild animal nature fights inside the one body. The vitality, strength, and freedom of the animal versus the reason, control, and intellect of the man. Which one, though, is the dominant force? What is the healthy balance between our animal nature, one that is wild, free, and connected to nature, and our radically, quote, civilized humanness, separate from or dominant over nature? The werewolf asks us to consider this balance and to delve into our own ideas of wildness, independence, and custodianship of the planet. When is the last time you spent all day outside? When is the last time you threw your head back and howled at the moon? Do you quash the vitality and curiosity of your body and mind by sitting all day in front of a computer? The werewolf challenges you to weave balance between nature and your own nature. Love that. Okay, well, for sure, that reminded me that I wanted to share with you another message that came through to me, I don't know, the last 2 years we did around this time, featuring the wolf and howl as a something that came through as a message that I'd like to share with everyone. So I'll be sharing that this week, inspired by our werewolf on the altar. And it's one that asks us to question the way that we relinquish control or try to hold on to control when we set an intention or put something out into the universe that we want to manifest, but then getting really specific about the how and wanting to really manage, who, what, when, where, why, and how we expect it to show up, and how we then get in our own ways. So that's one message I will certainly be sharing this week. Sticking with the vibe here with this werewolf message of exploring wildness is asking us to kind of take a look at where we are in following being in nature and connecting with nature versus our own nature. But nature in this, our own nature in the sense of, a tendency to perhaps not allow ourselves to step out into things outside the norm, things outside what's considered to be socially acceptable or civilized, in terms of, maybe just getting out there, bare feet, touching earth, taking some deep breaths, appreciating some walks in nature, some time getting up from the chair, away from the computer, or whatever our go-to day-to-day activity is, in order to move our body and really just let the energy flow through us, instead of perhaps in this case resisting change and transformation that's coming in by staying sedentary or inactive in a way. So just getting a little message there to get moving and get outside as well, as opposed to just succumbing to what's comfortable and familiar or easy enough, that perhaps for some that could be a little nudge in the direction of allowing yourself to get out into nature, as opposed to surrendering to our own shadow nature, let's call it that, and that tendency to perhaps stick with what is ease, or coming to us second nature when it comes to those mechanisms of tuning out and numbing out. So we'll see where that takes us into our tarot messages. Let's bring up those cards now. All right, we are kicking off our Halloween week messages with the Five of Swords coming in here through the Halloween Trick or Treat Tarot. And we're going to just take a peek at that big picture so we can see our characters here in costume and tune into what is going on with that poor yellow crayon. All right, let's take a look. So our story says, our fairy princess is victorious. Her valor has allowed her to steal the swords from the orc and the crayon. The bards shall sing songs about her. At least that's how she sees things right now. Don't you think, though, that the orc and crayon feel differently? You can almost see that orc thinking, you won the battle, but the war isn't over. Fairy princess had better watch her back. When this card comes up, be very careful about how you approach success. There might be an easy path to victory, but think it through. Make sure you're not creating enemies or leaving existing ones with weapons that they can use on you later. Be very sure that what you are getting is worth what you are paying. On the other hand, if you are the apparent loser in the situation, see what is salvageable that can be used later. Look for potential allies and tools that can turn the tide in the future. This card brings choppy waters and danger. Navigate carefully. Keywords: victory, aggression, poor sportsmanship, and defeat. So of course, this is that card where I'll often say victory, but at what cost? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Do I want to have a dog in that fight when it's all about just for the sake of being able to say that I was first, that I got to the top, that, I won, but at what cost? So if it's from less integritous means or an underhanded, quote, win, then that's something that, it's giving us two sides of the coin for you as the princess or you as the orc or the yellow crayon receiving the loss or taking the win and deciding if it's worth it. And it's specifically mentioning to us here, how we approach success, how we view something to be a success. And that, it may seem like, yeah, this is a shortcut. This is an easy path to saying like, woohoo, I got it. But is it worth it? And is it a good look? Is it something that really feels like integritous to you? If that's you. On the other hand, it could be that we're on the receiving end of someone behaving in that manner and getting to determine how we're going to act and react in that scenario, if at all, right? So, just kind of setting that tone. It's interesting that it says choppy waters and danger. Of course, fives in general are about change, right? Chaos, confusion, some turbulence, because we're in the in-between. We're not there yet. Like it says, this is just one battle, but it's the long game, the war, as it said. So let's just see what's coming in with our potential blocker challenge this week. I'm curious about the princess to see the continued story that comes in now with the next card coming in for Tuesday. All right, Tuesday, we have the beautiful star coming in here. It's not quite the princess, but similar garb. It's a ballerina. And of course, the question here is, what could be a potential block or challenge this week on our path? And the beautiful star is a very significant energy. It's one of hope and healing, renewal, wishes fulfilled. But we're, standing on one toe, sort of finding that balance. What do we need to know about what's coming in collectively with a potential block or challenge? So here, card 17, the star. Oh, that blissful feeling when you are so sure of your place in the world, where you are completely your very best self. And through the magic of costumes and the enchantment of Halloween, sometimes we find a connection to our truest selves, even if only for a while. Carry that moment as a tiny spark to illuminate the darkness all year long. When this card comes up, you can take a deep breath and relax. Whatever is bugging you or messing up your life, guidance is on the way. Just like sailors navigating by the stars, you will find a guiding light that illuminates your way. It's not a bright, glaring neon sign, though. It's soft and gentle, blowing in on a breeze, bringing peace and serenity. And you might feel beaten up by life or just exhausted after trying so hard to accomplish something. It's been rough, but the star promises healing and a renewal of faith and energy. Tap into your inner star, connect to your outer star, and find your sweet spot. You can do it. Now, that does sound beautiful, but when we're talking about this being in shadow, we're talking about lack of faith, discouragement, feeling lost, broken dreams, dashed hopes, and unfulfilled wishes. So I feel like these two cards are very connected in, somebody acting that way with the princess with all the swords versus, things turning out the way that we had hoped or planned. And so this is where I think, building up and into Scorpio season, different relationships, dynamics, groups, and scenarios, there could be some turbulence in the dynamics that ultimately choices have to be made in terms of whether or not you want to stick around and continue to participate, or it's something that you're going to step into something new or go on your own path. I mean, literally, I'm looking across here at these cards and that's what we're seeing. So I think that, as we turn into a challenge, it is about keeping the faith in the midst of turbulence, in the midst of uncertainty, in the midst of this shadow season. And allowing yourself to feel it to heal it. So that could mean feeling discouraged or lost or broken, in terms of what I thought was going to be or what I thought was happening or what I wished for. That, as I said about, and this is perfect for that howl energy to be coming in with the wolf theme that I'm going to be sharing, a timeless message, that again, when we try to too rigidly control or hold on to things in a way that wants to direct exactly the how, exactly all the details, we could be setting ourselves up for disappointment when it doesn't quite turn out just the way that we planned. So I feel like the star is coming in to sort of illuminate that in terms of, these are all par for the course when it comes to moving through transformation and change, but to keep the hope, not to lose faith, and to trust that whatever is meant for me will never pass me by. Whatever it is that I've been wishing and dreaming and hoping the universe is already working to bring that to me. I must allow that dance to play out, one position at a time. So that's what we're feeling into for a potential block or challenge, where again, if any of these messages start pinging for you in a way that you want to get some more clarity, let me know if you'd like a personal card pull and we'll check into that for you. Let's take a look now at Wednesday for our midweek blessing. And now we have middle of the week, Wednesday, 8 of Cups coming in here. With our superhero, let's see. He's heading off for that big pumpkin in the patch, moving on from these little pumpkin cups to that big one. So let's see what's coming in here for our midweek blessing. Eight of Cups. Some people seek the perfect Christmas tree, the most impressive Independence Day fireworks, or an extravagant birthday cake. Others are driven to discover the best pumpkin in the patch, and nothing else will do. While we may not have much confidence in our superhero's villain fighting abilities, here he has proven his pumpkin seeking skills. When this card comes up, a potential quest is in your future. Here's the situation. Things are pretty good. In fact, some might say you're lucky or have a great life. You might even agree with them, which makes this itchy feeling in your gut so confusing. The truth is that even though things are very comfortable, they just aren't satisfying you anymore. You probably can't explain the feeling to others because you don't completely understand it yourself. All you know is that you must go in search of something that is missing, and you won't feel at ease until you do. This isn't a guarantee you will find it, but you have to try. So we're talking about a quest, a journey, a search, being kind of getting discontent or dissatisfied or moved in some way through that unsettled aspect. So, Eight of Cups is about moving on. It's about, seeking out perhaps greater, greener pastures, bigger pumpkins in this regard. But it's the bittersweetness of it is that typically there's nothing wrong with those cups, those other cups that we're moving from. So there's a sense of, maybe we have an intuitive or a nudge that we wish to move on or expand in some way, but there's some sense of a loyalty or an obligation or just a little bit of a torn aspect in, not leaving that behind, even though it's time, is what we're feeling there. So, again, as a blessing, it's saying that, it can be difficult, those first few steps, but typically once we move forward, we very quickly begin to create space to allow the universe to do its thing. So again, this feels like an extension of our potential with the star for wishes and hope of those things to be fulfilled. But we've been sitting on some of these little pumpkin cups that are taking up space and taking up energy in the form of our emotional energy as well, because the cups are speaking to our feels. And, if our cup's filled with something that's really not aligned with where we are growing, then we're going to feel that lag, which is our challenge. But actually the blessing is taking that move and making that move. So it feels like there's starting to be an opportunity for us to put our eye on the prize when it comes to what it is that we want to expand into. Okay, we're going to take a look now at Thursday for how we are growing and how we have grown throughout this month of October. All right, we've got Thursday coming in here, and this is going to be what we call Mischief Night, the night before Halloween. And we've got this mischief maker standing on top of the tombstone in the graveyard as the Two of Swords, which brings us to a crossroads, a choice point, or a position here where perhaps, again, it seems to be in tune with what we've been tapping into here, that we need to decide a direction that we're moving in and then create that movement so that we can begin to experience all that expansion, growth, and wishes and all the things that we're looking to bring into our lives. So the Two of Swords from the Trick or Treat Tarot say, some people like trick-or-treating, some prefer a house party, and others like to hang out in cemeteries. To each their own. Admittedly, a crumbly old tombstone is a fine place to practice your Jedi ninja skills. Yes, so that is our Jedi ninja. Also, the only other people around are already dead, so you won't hurt anyone if you lose control of your lightsabers. When this card comes up, you will face a decision that you can't seem to make. It is a decision best made by rational thought. Easy peasy, right? Make a list of pros and cons, and Bob's your uncle. Unfortunately, this card lets you know it won't be so simple. First, it is a logic problem, but your heart might have other ideas. In this case, let your brain win. Second, whether your heart is butting in or not, you simply do not have all the facts yet. Put off any action for a while. As surely as the moon waxes and wanes, this moment of confusion will pass. Now, key words coming in with this energy: insufficient data, lack of facts, denial, feeling conflicted, head and heart in opposition. Now, it's interesting because this is the day after that Mercury in Sagittarius, where we said all of the deep thinking and all of that is now making its way from Scorpio into Sagittarius, where we may start to expand into it. Now, that makes sense because as that is expanding, we could find ourselves at a crossroads because we're really feeling that blessed nudge to expand, to level up, to move on. And yet, what about this other path that keeps us going on that comfort zone trajectory? Remember, the werewolf was just sitting there all day in the chair in front of the computer, or taking the easy, typical, habitual way versus expanding and going out into nature and exploring that potential. So again, bring that into your life and how that could come up for you in the way that there could be new opportunities coming in or inklings for expansion, that we're starting to feel that, that tightness of the cups that we're still sitting in with that 8 of Cups, that there's a choice to be made. And it may not be this week that we're making said choice or actually taking the step, but this is sort of filtering in the beginning of that story now on the other side of our new moon in Libra, with all the wishes and the intentions and the things that have been seeded that we're still moving in out that energy of that now Scorpio season's here. It's getting deep. It's going within. And we're talking about moving into a period of time where we could have some things really coming up to the surface, things being illuminated, where action will be called for as we're moving through the rest of this year in these coming 2 months. So I'm feeling this sort of, putting that red pin into this choice point. Note what's coming up for you this week that will be a part of the theme that we'll continue to move on to throughout the remainder of this year. Let's take a look at our last tarot card for Friday and see how we're wrapping it all up. All right, Friday, wrapping it up. It's Halloween, it's Samhain, it's Dia de los Muertos, it's the last day of October. It's all the things coming in with the Page of Cups. Page of Cups, messenger energy in the water element. So we're talking about feels and flow and all that watery Scorpio energy happening on Halloween. So, Page of Cups. How adorable is she? She'll probably be obsessed with her new goldfish friend all night. Her natural grace and some enchanted luck keep her from tripping over her costume. In fact, the Page of Cups is usually shown with a fish popping out of a chalice. Some say that the fish represents a message that will be received. When this card comes up, it represents someone who is young, emotionally immature, or inexperienced in relationships. Lack of experience doesn't stop them, though. They will dive into the deep end of whatever pool strikes their fancy. The pools that are most likely to capture their attention are the ones promising romance, connection, or inclusion in a group. They have soft, generous, loving hearts. On the downside, they can be overly sensitive, needy, or clingy. Be nice to them and you'll have a fast friend. Teach them about good boundaries and you'll have a friend that doesn't invade your life. So some of the words that come into Page of Cups: young, inexperienced, a friend, sensitive, romantic, sweet, emotional, and intuitive. So tapping into all of those aspects behind that mask and that costume that we see here is some really good energy, because it's talking about messenger energy, some news coming in. And I would say too, like finding some balance then between the mind and the heart, because we have this blend here of some swords, some cups, and actually quite interestingly, that's all we have other than our star card. So we have we have the Five of Swords, we had the Two of Swords, we had the Eight of Cups, and the Page of Cups. So this is mental versus feels, right? Mental versus the heart energy that's coming in here this week, that we find ourselves at this choice point as we're wrapping things up. And so I think, like I said, more information being revealed, more things coming in from behind the mask and beyond the veil, that's helping us then to determine our path forward from here. So this one does seem like, some people might be getting some news this week, messenger energy. It also, of course, highlights the young people in our lives, children, trick-or-treaters coming to your door, all the things. Like I said, I can see how this, relates to me this week for sure, in the realm of all of the costumes and fun with kids and all of that for sure. So that could be, how it shows up for some people. But also, something with that fish out of water too. I want you to see that up close, just in case it didn't capture on that. We see this is what they were talking about, is the goldfish leaping out of the cup. So fish out of water too is about transforming beyond our comfort zone. That werewolf, remember it talked about the bone cracking, skin ripping experience of the werewolf from the man to the werewolf, and the transformation taking place. That it's kind of a Halloween spooky version of our caterpillar to butterfly metamorphosis story that we've been talking about, turning to mush in the darkness in order to emerge as the butterfly, but yet the werewolf kind of bringing in some balance to those more primal energies. So again, giving us kind of some of that theme that we're tuning into to wrap up this month, leaping on into November. If you would like a personal card to give you some more clarity around exactly how this could be showing up for you, please feel free to reach out. We've got one more card to look at, and this one is going beyond the veil with seduction. Let's take a look. So here we are with our final card of the week, our final card of the month of October, and our message coming in for Samhain. It is the card of seduction. And as I mentioned, the veil is quite thin for these ladies, as we see in their frocks. And we have this card bringing in an 8 energy. So it says, hear the roaring flames with the masterful trance that calls upon heaving chest. Give in to its alluring grip, if you please, but heed my warning of the claws that draw blood without mercy. Okay, let's see what's happening with seduction. It says, sex is the ultimate in desire and temptation. It is not the act of sex that betrays our resolve. It is the delicious journey of passion and pleasure that leads to it. It is the rush of excitement we feel whether another can sense our darkest desires and bring them to the surface. It is the loss of control, the desire to at once find freedom and submission. The act of seduction is powerful. It is birthed in passion and sensuality. But beware, seduction is rarely as it seems. It can be an act of manipulation. It is the rose that promises you much, only to leave you pierced by its thorns. Beware the sweet song of seduction when it comes into your spread. Are a few moments of pleasure worth a lifetime of regret? This card reminds you of the consequences found on the road of temptation. Are you allowing others to manipulate you with grand schemes that are too good to be true? It is time to break temptation's hold. It feels good to feel moments of love, acceptance, perhaps abundance or fun, but be mindful of the cost of such moments. These experiences are free. You do not have to sacrifice your morals, values, or integrity to make another person happy. If someone asks you to do something that feels wrong, know that it probably is. Trust your intuition and follow your heart when temptation comes knocking. All right, yeah, we went there. And I'll say, as I got further into that, I wasn't sure where they were going with that. That Five of Swords came back up, because is it worth it? And is this something that I want to entertain, that I want to put my energy into, that I want to give someone access to? So when it comes to temptation, seduction, things that, the shiny thing, the thing that feels good for a moment. And again, 8 of Cups. Our cards for this week are winking at me as I look at this message because, there's things that we've had or could have that are fine enough. They're fine enough and they might check a box or, satisfy an itch for a moment. But ultimately, long term, is this really in alignment with what I'm wishing for and hoping for and moving towards? And so, it's asking us to go deeper, to look beyond the veil, to look underneath the surface of the shiny thing, of the thing that initially purports to be all that. That's the princess that was in our 5 of Swords, putting it out there like she's got it going on, but actually it's hollow. Actually, what's behind it falls short. So that's where I'm feeling this energy of this card coming through here with this seduction, and really having to use our intuition and our own inner knowing. Scorpio, this was a very scorpionic card, especially, talking about sex and seduction. And, we're talking about going into the depths, and there's temptation, and there's this sense of like going deep and seeing what's underneath, not just the pretty flower that's on the surface, but getting down into the roots and into the soil and into the muck that has fertilized and made it possible for that beautiful bloom. What all is going on under there that's getting cleared out and cleaned up, and really taking a closer look at the long-term sustainability. So it's this short-term passion, short-term pleasure versus long-term what it is that's in alignment with what we wish to create, and getting really clear on that. So I will leave it there for these messages because I know we're going to be back this week with some pick a cards and some other messages around these moments that we can tune into on the calendar. Again, I like to use the collective energy that's going into things like Halloween and the pagan celebration of Samhain and Day of the Dead, and those types of energies that we can really raise the frequency, raise the vibration of insight, awareness, and understanding, of utilizing our intention, of working with these things for manifestation. So we'll have some other card pulls this week and opportunities to expand on these messages. Again, let me know if you would like a personal card pull this week. That is my loving service to you. I send you a personal video recorded card pull that goes along with our messages and builds on them for you specifically. And then also, I would love to invite you to join me for the upcoming November Empowerment Pack, where you and I will work together throughout the entire month of November. You will receive 3 big readings as well as unlimited personal card pulls as we move through that month ahead. So please let me know if you would like to join me for that. It's all ready. The link will be here for you to book, and we will be diving into that just on the other side of this week. Thank you all so much for being here. I look forward to having some fun with you this week and wishing you a spooktacular week ahead. Much love, many blessings.